He later completed a Juris Doctorate at the University of South Carolina Law School in 2007 and his MBA at Simpson College of Business at Pennsylvania State University in 2010. Following his graduation, Mr. Barr moved to Columbia, where he conducted research on institutional corruption at Pontificia Universidad Javeriana Cali. He later became a professor at Javeriana University, teaching international business and law courses. He also served as the international legal consultant for Corn Products International Andina, now known as Ingredion, as well as Director of Education for the foundation GCS Ingles para Todos. Following 2 years in Colombia, Mr. Barr returned to the United States to address social issues in his home state of South Carolina. From 2013 to 2015, he worked as a civil rights attorney and served as the State Fair Housing Director at the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission. Currently, as the Director of the Civil and Human Rights Department for the City of Des Moines, Mr. Barr works with the Des Moines Civil and Human Rights Commission, as well as a variety of individuals and organizations committed to ending discrimination and resolving socioeconomic disparity in Des Moines. Please join me in welcoming as our Martin Luther King Jr. Day guest speaker, Mr. Joshua Barr.
All right, good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, that's better, that's better. All right, Mr. President, distinguished faculty and staff, students of Simpson College, first of all, once again, thank you for the invitation to be here this afternoon. As he said, my name is Joshua V Barr. The V stands for victory, not really, but I'm proud to be part of this particular event. I've done a few Martin Luther King speeches in my lifetime. I've done a lot lately as with this position. But I must say that if I'm being completely frank, this one right here at Simpson College is the one I'm probably most proud of. And I'll tell you why. Because this particular event, I am not the focus. The focus is you all. Usually, during my lifetime, I always tell people drugs ruined my life. I was drugged to this event, I was drugged to that event. Drugs had a dramatic effect on my life. It made it better. Drugs actually had a positive effect on my life, being drugged to so many events by my parents. MLK was a big one. It ran from sun up to sundown, just like it did today. But I'm proud of this one because usually you go to an MLK event, you give a speech, make people feel good, and everybody goes home. What happens to that energy? Where does that energy go? But today, when I'm done, y'all are just getting started. And y'all are about to embark on something that's big. Simpson College has decided to do something different. Simpson College, today, you have decided to start a journey towards substantive action, towards substantive change, something bigger than talk. Today is the day that you as students will embark on a journey that moves you towards the old, passive, instructional paradigm that asks students to be mere consumers of their education. You know, that memorizing so you can get the answers right and do a brain dump and then try to study for the next exam. I see some people say, yeah, I do that. But today, with this dialogue process, you will create a new educational paradigm that makes you the students of Simpson College, the co-creators of your own learning through deliberative conversation. The power of dialogue. That's why they brought me here today. Today I'm just here to inspire you. And inspiration only lasts for a moment, but motivation comes from within. And hopefully motivation eventually leads to determination. Determination to get whatever you desire out of this process. This process can be something long-lasting, something sustainable throughout your studies here at Simpson College, and maybe even throughout your life. The power of dialogue. Now, if you don't mind, as he mentioned, I have 3 degrees, which means I have a lot of student loan debt. So I'm going to get a little academic on you for just a moment and break down what dialogue means. You see, dialogue, if you look at the basic definition, is defined as a conversation between 2 or more persons. But if you look just a little deeper, the dictionary also defines dialogue as an exchange of ideas or opinions on a particular issue, especially a political or religious one, with the purpose of hopefully reaching an amicable agreement or settlement. Scholars even go one step further and define dialogue as a process through which a range of stakeholders come together to share ideas and perspectives, and then make collective decisions that form the basis for public action. And today, you, students, are the stakeholders. And through this dialogue process, you're going to share ideas and perspectives that hopefully lead to some sort of action taking place here on the campus. This is proactive learning. This is education in action. Dialogue is deeper than mere talking. And in this day and age, we do a lot of talking. I'm up here talking today. But do we actually exchange ideas? We do a lot of hearing, but do we actually take the time to listen? We do a ton of reading. Research actually indicates now that we aren't even reading books anymore. They say only 29% of Americans actually finish 1 book in a year. I'm 3/4 through 1, so I'm gonna get that number this year. But most of us, we still do a ton of reading each day, whether it's on social media or whether it's reading a number of news articles day in, day out. But are we actually taking the time to process what we are reading and trying to understand why people have the opinions that they have? That's what true dialogue requires. Dialogue requires that you exchange thoughts and ideas, that you listen, that you take the time to process and understand what others are saying and understand where they are coming from. You see, listening is a word I'm going to repeat a lot today. But it's a 3-step process. Step 1 requires you to hear what the other person is saying. But then step 2 requires you to meditate on what they are saying, process it in your head, and then and only then can you respond with an appropriate response. Not a non sequitur where you say something that has no relation to what they said, but you actually respond to what they stated. But nowadays, we don't listen. I don't know if you used to do double dutch, but nowadays we treat conversation like double dutch. As soon as I find my spot, I'm gonna get in there and I'm about to tell your conversation. No. Y'all don't go outside. We used to do that. We try to stuff all over what someone else is saying instead of actually taking the time to really listen. The technological advancements of today have made communication easier and faster than ever before. But research indicates that with the advent of all these mediums of technology and communication, we are lonelier, we are more divided, and more polarized than ever before. It's amazing that we can communicate in ways that we never could before, yet it seems that the faster we are able to communicate, our ability to actually properly communicate has decreased. We live in a polarized world where everyone stays in their corner or stays in their bubble, and they come out, and when they come out and engage with others, they come out swinging at anything that challenges their worldview. Everybody wants to be heard, but few people actually take the time to listen. And even fewer take the time to understand someone else's point of view. Understand this, if you understand nothing else today. Human beings are social creatures by nature. We are meant to congregate and spend time with others, even an introvert such as myself, a hermit, someone who my wife will tell you, I love people, but I don't really like people. There's a difference. I love y'all. I love you. And what do I mean? And this is something that's very true. If you take a dog, for example, and put that dog around humans, that dog will still walk on all fours. That dog will still bark. It will still eat from his mouth to whatever's on the floor or on the plate. Now, if you take human beings, for example, my example of us being social creatures, and you grow that human being up around wolves, and they've actually had real people that have actually been raised by wolves, that's actually true stuff, people who've been raised by primates. They find that these humans bark, they walk on all fours, they hiss, they bite, they do whatever. Some people who've had to be acclimated back into society after being raised out in the wild, they've been in the wild so long, they never were able to develop the ability to articulate in their proper language. We as human beings, we are adaptable to our situations. And I mention this to make one point. As human beings, when we cannot communicate with one another, the social structure breaks down and we begin to look like animals. Look on television today. The most popular shows are reality television shows, and those people can't communicate. It's good for ratings, but we can't communicate. Our elected officials can't communicate, and therefore, the federal government right now is shut down. Our social structure is breaking down. Now, Martin Luther King, the person that we're honoring today, but not just King, but many other people that he worked with in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, CORE, SNCC, NAACP, Urban League, etc. These people knew how to dialogue. King spent his entire career dialoguing, from 26 to his death at 39. He dialogued with presidents. You have a photo right up there, him dialoguing with the president. Dialogue with governors, with mayors, with police chiefs, and other angry white men, challenging people who had supremacist views, Stephen King, and pushing people who were afraid to move because they were afraid of losing power and or position. He didn't always get what he wanted, but he never closed the door to discussion because he knew something that a lot of us have forgotten. We should not hate the racists, but rather hate racism. We don't hate the sexist, but rather sexism. Don't hate the bigot, hate bigotry. You see, these isms weren't created by one person. It's a system. A group of persons that design something for their benefit and spread it out amongst the masses as the norm. Hate and bigotry never happen in a vacuum. King knew that, and he also knew that we have to break the chains. We have to break the chains of racism, break the chains of consumerism, break the chains of militarism, break the chains of poverty, break the chains of sexism, etc., 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 etc. Problems that existed long before you and I were born. And King knew that the only way to break these chains is through love and understanding, listening, and dialogue. Dialogues have the ability to dismantle and disarm people who think or who you thought were your enemies. So I'll give you a quick example. I do a number of events on Facebook through social media for our Civil and Human Rights Department. And during my tenure here in Des Moines, we've encountered a troll or three. And normally I ignore the troll and hope they just go away or let the social media society take care of that person. But one day we were doing a conference on hate crimes, and a gentleman jumped on and said, those people need to be saved for themselves. You shouldn't waste government money on that. And once again, I was going to let it go, but then he sent a direct message to the office site. And he said, I can't believe you guys are wasting money. We had crime and all these other issues. So I said, well, what issue would you like to address? Well, you know, I think this is important. I totally agree with you, but we got to start somewhere. And we kept going. And he finally was like, I think you're just trying to judge how racist I am. I said, wait, I didn't say anything about race, racism. That was you, sir. And we were trying to engage, but we kept missing one another. We kept missing one another. So finally I said, you know what, this social media thing is not working. Would you like to go to lunch? Huh? I invite you to lunch. Well, are you trying to, but I said, I'll pay for it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, I'll go. And most of us, we have a benefit, we'll take it. And we went to lunch. We went to a dorm in Des Moines. And we talked for nearly 2 hours just conversing about the issues that plague our community and how we do it. He was actually at that time, a 38-year-old white male, so he's 2 years older than I am. And we had a conversation for 2 hours on what we thought we needed to do to fix our community. And I listened to his side and his position. And he took the time to listen to my side and my position. And at the end of the conversation, he came to the realization of something that I already knew. At the end of the day, we had much more in common than we had in our differences. Because I believe that most decent human beings, emphasis on the word decent, want a better life for themselves and an even better life for their children. Decent human beings, that's what they want. And I believe most people in here, I don't know y'all personally, but y'all look like decent people. I don't know what that looks like. But if I had to get a crowd of decent people, I would pick this group right here. And he even left that conversation saying, hey, this went way different from how I thought it was going to go. He said, I thought I had my boxing gloves ready, but I didn't even get the chance to throw one punch. Because when he approached me, I reached out with an open hand rather than a closed fist. We didn't become best friends from that conversation, so don't let the story fool you. But he did when someone else started trolling the Facebook page. He put up a message of support. No, those are good people really trying to improve the community. I was like, okay, all right. Even more recently, we had a conversation, a dialogue called Bridging the Gap in the city of Des Moines, where in the month of May, we had a number of dialogues in the city talking about how we can strengthen public community relations with the police department, and how we can improve public safety. Now, the police were shaking in their boots. Oh God, they're gonna yell at us. They're gonna yell at us. Because during my time in Des Moines, and one reason why I'm very passionate about dialogues is a lot of people love to just be, they're very passionate people in Des Moines. Des Moines is one of the most passionate cities I've ever lived in regarding people and what they believe is right or fair, etc. But the problem is they do a lot of yelling, and then after, whoa, I feel so good. Well, what's next? Where do we advance? They use these town halls and panels, etc. as a catharsis to get off the emotional, but they never move towards progress. And so I said, we have to do a dialogue. I'm not going to do any more town halls. I'm not going to be a part of any more panels. I've done a panel hiatus. And we're going to actually have a dialogue. We all sit and talk about the issues that plague us as a community. Now, after it was over, and the process is still ongoing, but after the initial dialogues ended, the reaction from the police department was, hey, that wasn't as bad as we thought. Now, once again, we didn't solve every issue in the community, but now cops have formed relationships with members of the community that they didn't have before. And they actually know that they can go to events and they don't have to bring in shields to protect themselves. And the community also knows that we don't have to go to an event and actually bring in swords and spears, but we can actually talk. Because the goal at the end of the day is, how do we move our community forward? and a community at war with one another can't move forward. Dialogues have the ability to repair a fractured social system. Because one thing you must understand is in this time where people squabble rather than listen, where we have fake outrage rather than understanding, dialogues are revolutionary. Dialogues have the ability to change. That's why what you're going to do today is so powerful. Today, with this dialogue process that you are about to embark on, you have the ability to reconstruct a social structure that is broken down. A structure where brothers and sisters who desire the same outcomes have become enemies about the way in which we get there. We can't leave dialogue and action up to politicians. Politics, just in case you didn't know, is the management of conflicts which occur when groups war over the power and resources. And when the issues of power and resources can't be worked out by politicians, then the alternative is war. The politicians aren't getting along. If we want to fix the problems that plague our community, it's up to us. It's up to us to talk through our issues and listen to why someone feels the way that they feel on a particular issue. It's up to us to end this polarization and enter into a state of deeper understanding, even if you don't agree, and try to come up with solutions that not only impact our lives, but the lives of future generations. That is the power of dialogue. So as I near my conclusion, I'm not there yet, but as I near my conclusion, know this: all social change begins first with a conversation. There is a saying that it only takes a spark to get a fire going. The journey you all are about to embark on today is that spark that has the potential to set this whole community ablaze in the way that we desire to see Simpson College. But just know this: in this process of dialoguing, you will be challenged. You will be challenged to listen. You will be challenged to hold your tongue when you desire to speak. Challenged to speak softly when you want to scream. Challenged to say, "I hear you," when all you really want to say is, "This ignorant mother." But all of this is for the greater good, for the progression of the greater community, something bigger than you. Dialogues can move communities forward if we work collectively together to develop ideas that can realistically be implemented. That is the power of dialogues. I've said some things in jest today, but I want you to know this as you go through this dialogue process. There is nothing wrong with being ignorant. We are all ignorant to many things. I am ignorant when it comes to brain surgery. All those degrees who said nothing about medicine. The problem is not with being ignorant. There are many things that many of us don't know. The problem is with being a fool. And being a fool is someone who knows better, rejects it, and does otherwise. So in this process, don't be a fool. Keep an open mind. Dialogues have the power to raise the awareness of people as we evolve. Because most people don't have epiphanies. They have evolutions. And they grow through life. And if you aren't growing, you're dying, no matter if you're 62 or 16 or 19 or 23. And degrees are not the be-all, end-all of knowledge. Understand that. There's a difference between education and knowledge. You can be an educated fool, but once you got knowledge, they can't take that away from you. So as you move into this next phase of this MLK Day and this dialogue process, understand that dialogues have the ability to awaken people to their power. When you don't have political power, when you don't have legal power, when you don't have economic power, the only thing you got left is power in numbers, people power. Dr. King had a dream, but he knew it would take more than himself to make it a reality. Through dialogues, all of you have the ability to shape your community to how you envision it should be. A place where everyone has the ability to prosper and thrive, not just for them, but for future generations. Know your power. It is in your voice, but it is in your collective voice. So if you take the time to listen, understand, be respectful, develop ideas, and move forward together towards a better tomorrow, the power will be yours. The power of dialogues. So welcome to the revolution known as dialogues in an age where people scream, yell, and fight. Are y'all ready? Yeah. Are y'all ready?
Yes.
All right, I'm done. Thank you.